In about 10 days, Ross is gonna throw him away. I'm gonna be real with you, Meech. If Rick Ross, seeing what he did to you, because he knew what he was doing standing on the side of him.
Rick Ross just pulled off the biggest finesse in hip-hop, and Big Meech is paying the price.
I've seen a lot of posts about the Big Meech concert getting canceled. What I'm not seeing is anybody blaming Rick Ross for this shit. Nobody is saying, yo, Rick Ross is...
The streets don't lie, and right now, they're screaming about Big Meech and Rick Ross. What started as the comeback story of the year has turned into one of the biggest betrayals in hip-hop history. Look at Big Meech, fresh out, ready to reclaim his throne, linking up with the biggest boss in the game. Rick Ross Instagram posts, promises of movies, business deals. It all looked perfect, too perfect.
13, the Big Meech home benefit concert. It's gonna be iconic. Too many names to list, but let me salute some of the legends. Lil Baby, Boss Man D-Lo, 21 Savage, Sexy Red, Ricky Rose. Now, this the first time it's ever been done.
Now Big Meech is losing it for real. That massive comeback concert canceled, the $1 million deals vanished, his family struggling. And where's Rick Ross? Nowhere to be found when Meech needs him most.
I'm on the edge, so don't push. I aim straight for your head, so don't push.
Yeah, I'm out here in Miami. We're gonna do live tonight. It's gonna be live if it don't get canceled.
This party is canceled.
You're about to witness the complete breakdown of how Rick Ross went from Meech's biggest supporter to his biggest problem. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why Big Meech lost it, and trust me, you would too. But before we get into all that, have you noticed something off about Rick Ross lately? That shoulder injury that came out of nowhere, the way he's been dodging questions about Big Meech. Yeah, that's where our answers really lie. While everyone was focused on the drama between Big Meech and 50 Cent, something major just happened that flips this whole story upside down. 50 Cent, who's been watching this situation unfold, just reposted something from someone in the trenches, someone with real connections to both Meech and Ross. This ain't just internet gossip or some random theory. This is straight from someone who knows these players personally and what they revealed about Rick Ross's true intentions with Big Meech. It exposes a level of snake behavior that nobody saw coming.
I've seen a lot of posts about the Big Meech concert getting canceled. What I'm not seeing is anybody blaming Rick Ross for this shit. Nobody is saying, yo, Rick Ross, it's your fault.
That's right. What looked like Rick Ross supported in Big Meech was actually a calculated scheme to stay relevant. Think about it. What better way to keep your name hot than inserting yourself into a years-long feud between legends? Industry insiders revealed that Ross was plotting this move from the moment he heard about Meech's release. Ross didn't waste a second. He reached out to Meech immediately. Let me break down what really happened from the looks of it. Ross sweet talked Meech, buttering them up with promises of a massive welcome back concert. All the biggest names in hip-hop would be there to celebrate his return. The pitch: it would help Meech raise the money he desperately needed to get back on his feet after nearly 2 decades behind bars, a man who just did 15 years trying to rebuild his life. And Ross saw dollar signs and clout. What happened next? It backfired. And not just a little, it exploded in Mech's face when 50 Cent, the man who'd actually been holding me down for years, retaliated and exposed the truth.
When we was on the internet talking about the Cuffy case and all that, nobody even really gave a fuck. But now 50 talking about that shit, and everybody listening. Everybody listening, you heard? So, I just want to say, or I want to ask you, did you think that shit was a good idea in hindsight? Do you think it was a good idea?
And this is where it gets sinister. According to Zip, Ross pulled strings behind the scenes to get the concert canceled, and then had the audacity to blame it all on 50C without saying a word publicly. If that doesn't scream master manipulator, I don't know what does.
How you let that nigga get the show canceled in Florida, B? That's kind of diabolical, you heard? 50, that's some bullshit. How you let the nigga get the show canceled in Florida? Let's get to that.
But hold up, Zip had more to say. As an industry insider with his ear to the streets, he dropped some hood news that will make your jaw hit the floor.
Oh, yo, he never ratted on nobody. He official. What? Jailhouse full of paying rent. That never ratted, wouldn't dare rat. But they butt. What is you talking about? He official. That don't make you solid because you ain't rat. You shouldn't get no credit because you ain't rat. You wasn't supposed to rat. You don't get no check on his resume because he ain't.
So Big Meech's famous never fold policy, that thing Ross was hyping up like it made Meech a superhero, Zip says, it was just an unspoken rule, nothing special enough. To build a whole brand around being not a rat doesn't automatically make you a hero in the game. What Zip fails to mention, though, is that there's actual evidence and witnesses to the underhanded deals Me allegedly made to cut his time short. But we'll get deeper into that in a minute, because right now I need you to see the full picture of what's happening while Big Meech is out here struggling, cut off from support, betrayed by Ross, and on the outs with 50. Guess what Rick Ross is busy doing? He's actively promoting his own currency. That's right, boss token.
What I'm doing right now, my shoulder broke, but we still getting to the money. We still counting paper. This ain't a pump and dump, baby. We bossing all the way up. Get the address to the boss token.
So ask yourself, this was Rick Ross ever really in Meech's corner? Or was Meech just another stepping stone in Ross's game? And here's where things get even more suspicious. Have you noticed Rick Ross's mysterious shoulder injury that appeared right when all this drama started heating up? The timing seems a little too convenient, doesn't it? And it doesn't stop there. Ross has been running these luxury car shows across the country, charging fans thousands of dollars for VIP access, all while Mech's family is reportedly struggling to pay bills. The timing couldn't be more suspicious. Multiple sources from Atlanta to Miami are saying the same thing. These ventures from the boss token to the car shows, they're not just business moves, they're scams. People who bought in are already complaining about losing money with nothing to show for it anyway. Remember that shoulder injury Ross suddenly started sporting right when all this Meech drama started heating up. The one he's been suspiciously quiet about explaining. Word on the street is that Big Meech might have had something to do with it. I'm not saying it happened. I'm just telling you what people close to the situation are whispering after finding out how Ross played him, taking all that built-up rage from 15 years behind bars and directing it at the man who betrayed him. Well, let's just say it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. But wait, before you take that as fact, consider this alternative theory that actually makes even more sense when you look at Ross's history. What if, and hear me out, what if Ross is faking or exaggerating this injury as a sympathy play, as a way to distract from the heat he's taking for abandoning Meech? Because when you look at Ross's track record, particularly what happened with that Larry Hoover benefit concert back in 2022, a pattern of deception starts to emerge that changes everything about how we should view this shoulder situation. Before we delve further into this rabbit hole, if these industry secrets are opening your eyes, hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now. It takes 2 seconds, but helps me continue bringing you the truth they don't want out there. You might not have noticed, but this isn't the first time Rick has tried to take advantage of mafia associates. And that pattern becomes crystal clear when you look back at the Larry Hoover benefit concert fiasco in 2022, an event that should have been about freedom and justice turned into yet another Rick Ross disappearing act. See, when Ross dropped Larry Hoover's name in his track, he knew exactly what he was doing. Nam dropping a legend for clout, riding that wave of publicity straight to ticket sales. But the second that heat came down, the Rick Ross concerts,
the Rick Ross concerts scheduled for Charlotte and Greensboro this weekend have been canceled. Yesterday, you may remember we told you about threats that the rapper received, which had made some fans a little anxious.
Ghost vanished, didn't even have the backbone to admit he played a role in the cancellation. Instead, he threw his own managers under the bus, claiming the concert ended without his knowledge. In an interview, he said, "I canceled the rest of the tour due to the promoter wasn't really handling his business. He canceled a date of mine. I was going to Tucson, Arizona, and that was really a few hours outside the market. The other day, I woke up and realized 2 more dates had been canceled and felt like that was some power I needed to take away from the homie without his knowledge. The headliner didn't know his own show got canceled. Make that make sense. And at the time, he even something eerily similar to what he is doing with this cryptocurrency. I'm a certified man. I am a real boss. This is something everybody need to understand. Gangsters move in silence. Well, if we didn't know any better, we'd think it was more to do with his low self-esteem than anything else. Anyway, the real story came out shortly after insiders claimed that the head of the gangster disciples, Larry Hoover, was upset with Ross using his name in a track But the MMG boss had the audacity to refute that anybody that know anything about Mr. Hoover, that's why I put him in my song. It's all about support. It's all about. Coming up, I was just in Chicago a week and a half ago. That's the birthplace of the GDs. If I go to Chicago to handle my business then. I got no problems in North Carolina. Here's the question that'll keep you up at night. If Rick Ross could turn his back on Larry Hoover and face zero consequences, what made Big Meech think he'd be treated any differently? Now here's something about Rick Ross that makes this betrayal even more twisted. The man who abandoned Big Meech has built his entire career on deception. See, Rick Ross isn't even his real name. William Leonard Roberts, too, stole the identity of an actual kingpin, a man who was serving life in prison, when Roberts decided to take his name and story.
His name is Rick Ross, but not only that, this Rick Ross claims that his whole identity was stolen. Peep the beard, peep the bald hair, the selling...
While most rappers use aliases, they don't straight up steal someone else's life story. The real freeway Rick Ross eventually got out of prison and took the rapper to court. And that's when the ultimate bombshell dropped. This so-called street kingpin, the supposed deal lord who built his image on being from the trenches. He was a government official.
Here's where things start to get wicked. Secrets start getting spilled. Rose says, Your Honor. Judge says, are you a kingpin? A Bausch, if you will. Rose said, no. The crowd goes, the judge said, the crowd goes silent. He goes, so what were you before you were a rapper? Rose goes, a corrections officer.
That's right, the man claiming to have run Miami's D scene was actually working for the system, locking people up. And somehow, despite being exposed, he got the judge to rule in his favor. No wonder people in the industry believe Ross might be a federal informant who infiltrated hip-hop to feed information back to the authorities. Maybe that explains why he's constantly stirring up beef with 50 Cent and other artists, creating chaos, getting people to slip up, gathering intel. So this man, this impersonator, with a hidden past working for the system, is who Big Meech chose to trust. A walking red flag couldn't have been more obvious if it tried. And what did Big Meech do when he saw this red flag waving in his face? When the entire industry watched Ross abandon a cause the second it got complicated, he ignored it, completely blind to the warning signs that were screaming at him. After 15 years behind walls, you'd think a man would develop a sixth sense for snakes, which ultimately led Meech to trade genuine loyalty for empty promises. The most mind-blowing part of this situation isn't just what Ross did, it's what Meech gave up in the process. Big Meech had 50 Cent, a man who actually put his money where his mouth is, in his corner for years. While Meech sat behind bars, kept his name and legacy alive. He transformed BMF into a hit TV series that introduced Meech to a whole new generation. He put real dollars behind the BMF brand when everyone else had forgotten and moved on.
I like a snake. If it's little like a snake, it's a snake. You ain't got to get bit to realize it's a snake.
This wasn't just business for 50. Sources close to both men confirmed that 50 Cent had been sending money to Meech's family, visiting him behind bars when cameras weren't around, and planning business ventures that would set Meech up for success the moment he touched down. Just days before Meech started publicly aligning with Rick Ross, 50 Cent and Tony Yo actually visited Meech to congratulate him on his release. They sat down together, broke bread, and according to my sources, discussed serious business opportunities worth millions. You know what's crazy? We went to Meech's house. We sat down with him, little Meech. And I thought, big things in the future was coming. Then Ross entered the picture, offering to celebrate Big Meech's return. But let's be real, this wasn't about celebrating Meech. This was calculated warfare. Ross saw a chance to hit 50 Cent where it hurt. Think about it, 50's been making serious bank from Big Meech's story. So when his biggest rival suddenly poops and offering Meech a flashy concert and promises of a film deal, it was the perfect setup to poison the well.
I do want to do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster, small budget series. Now it's time to do a big budget film.
Rick Ross didn't just want to celebrate Meech, he wanted to snatch the BMF brand right from under 50's nose, and Meech fell for it completely. When 50 Cent saw Meech with Ross, he went nuclear. The Queens rapper didn't hold back, calling Big Meech a snitch after seeing him alongside his longtime rival 50 hit Instagram with a picture of a rat captioned with the iconic line, "I think I'm Big Meech," a direct shot at Ross's 2010 hit BMF, because 50's never been one to take the high road. And he wasn't about to start now. Some might argue that Ross had genuine interest in Big Meech, that maybe he just wanted to welcome him back in style. Maybe Ross's obsession with making a BMF film had him buttering Meech up, hoping to get his blessing.
Which director? Shout out to my homie F. Gary Gray, Antoine Fuqua, what's up? Tarantino. It's a lot of legends. This is gonna be big, I can feel it. I'm just talking.
But if that was the plan, it was dead on arrival from the start, because everyone in the industry knows 50 Cent holds all the rights to the BMF story without his green light. Ross couldn't shoot a single frame. This wasn't just Meech making a bad business decision. This was him burning the bridge with the one person who actually had his back, all to chase empty promises from a known fraud. If that's not the definition of self-sabotage, I don't know what is. And instead of owning up to his mistake and trying to make things right with 50, what did Big Meech do? He doubled down with this weak, obviously scripted response that fooled absolutely nobody. No accountability, no acknowledgement that he messed up, just some generic lines about loyalty that rang completely hollow after what he just done. "I never folded, never told, never will death before the sign. I'll never fold." Really, Mech? You literally just folded on the man who kept your name relevant for 15 years. The timing couldn't have been worse or more transparent. The streets saw right through it. The industry saw through it. And clearly 50 Cent saw through it too. Even neutral voices in the industry, like Andrew Schultz, are saying 50 is never wrong when it comes to beef.
Go. If 50 doesn't f with you, I don't f with you. But I just don't know why yet. But he's never wrong. If he doesn't like you,
right,
there's a...
Here's the twist nobody saw coming. Rick Ross himself knows he's on thin ice. The same man who set up this entire situation is now trying to apologize to 50 Cent. Talk about switching gears faster than a Formula One driver. 1 minute Ross is trying to steal BM F from under 50's nose. The next, he's practically begging for forgiveness. This man has the loyalty of a leather vein pointing wherever the wind blows strongest.